Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. This is our Beast Tamer Bard run, episode 9. And I think we're gonna get a new character here, probably. Wolgief. Let's run around and loot all the things real quick, because we did not save since we last did that. Light hammer. There's definitely, if we do up, down, up. No. In. None. Anything else open? That sounded a wee bit different. Oh, let's talk to people real quick. Go ahead. Don't take too long, though. Oh, talking to him, I suppose.
Hey, Chief. Hey, Dreamboat, come over here.
Dreamboat?
I want to talk to you about something.
Hold up.
Something really important.
The young tiefling sits cross-legged on the floor. He looks relatively calm for someone in shackles, but his tail whips back and forth in agitation. Noticing your attention, the tiefling sits up and beckons you over.
Quit bothering the decent people in here, Wolgief, or I'll knock your teeth out!
What's it to you, Delvin Dum-Dum? You were told to guard me, and I'm not stopping you. But no one told me I had to shut my trap.
Who are you?
Wolgief. Wolgief Jefto. I deal in useful things. I can get you whatever you want. Anything. But there's just one problem.
Aha. Gotcha. What do you want from me?
I'll lay it out for you. Simple job, 30 minutes tops. We go someplace, talk to someone, and in return, whatever you want, I'll get it for you. Some extra rations? No problem. Armor, weapons, scrolls, you name it. It's as good as yours. If you need my help with something, whistle and I'll be there. I'm handy enough with knives, too, and even my magic know-how isn't too shabby.
Gotcha.
What a load of guff! If you were good at magic, you wouldn't be stuck in here now, would you?
Don't you listen to him, Chief. He'd find fault with the Queen herself.
Fair enough.
I'll be useful to have in battle, and I'll sell whatever you want at a reasonable price. It's your lucky day. You won't meet another gem like me in Canabras.
Why are you in chains?
Does it really matter? Don't get hung up on the past, Chief. Don't look to
a
the
little bit.
future. Live in the here and now.
He was caught thieving.
There you go. Shadow, what was that?
Get me out of here and I'll tell you. And don't worry, it's not contagious.
Can't help you while you're chained up here. How can I free you?
That's easy. You know Irabeth? Feisty looking gal,
Yeah.
always wears armor. You can't miss her. She's the meanest fighter in the whole city. When you see her, put in a good word for me, will ya? Tell her there's this guy, Wolgief, locked up for no good reason in the Defender's Heart. Well, for the follies of his youth. And he really wants to get out on bail so he can keep up his good behavior and make a contribution to society.
Oh yeah,
Got that?
make a
Will you do
contribution
it?
to society, yeah. Okay, alright, I'll talk to Irabeth about your situation.
I knew I could count on you. Knew it the moment I laid eyes on you.
Eh. Out on parole. Gotcha. Okay, so interesting. All of these means that this is nice, actually. This shows that we have to do this stuff this chapter or else it's done. Kingmaker did not have markations like this on quests, so it's pretty nice to get that. Pretty good. All right, cool. Let's head back. Whatever the fuck this thing is. There's clearly like a hidden door right here that these are gonna open, but
Here we go.
Hmm. So
I can handle it.
there's only so many options for a 3-button puzzle, excepting if there is a specific order in which the 3 buttons have to be pressed. Also, there's entirely the possibility that there might be more switches. So I think we go talk, see if we can't, normally you're gonna get some kind of like information somewhere about something. Like someone will mention, oh yeah, there's this thing over here. Or we'll see like another button somewhere. Elia has anything new to say?
Can't make the demons wait.
Hey, how's it going, man? How's the trip? It's going good. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's gonna take me on. It's gonna be another 150-hour game, but it's what I do. Long trip is long, absolutely. That help is already on the way. The will not leave us to die. So Kiato, Sali, Rathamus. The stout old man with a fuzzy gray beard mumbles a prayer. He looks as tired as everyone else in the tavern, but determination is stamped on his haggard face. What can I do for you? Who are you? Vasali Rathamus, rector of the local temple of Abadar. It's gone, though. If we snooze here for much longer, the city will be lost as well. Who's that boy with you? This one. Kiato the shepherd, my apprentice. A smart boy and his faith is strong. He serves Erastil, though. But there's still something he can learn from an old servant of Abadar. He'll be a great cleric when he gets a little older. What kind of help can I expect from you? First, I sell scrolls. I have a lot of them, something for every emergency. Second, while you're here in the tavern, I can read one for you. Guaranteed, no surprises. But you'd better not go into the city without a cleric. I'll be going there myself. I'm too old and my powers are needed here. Aldrain, how's it going? Pathfinder, Wrath of the Sleepy Kitty. You sleepy kitty. She mad. She big mad. Stretch. It's the rare Lipo day. Anyways, let's see what this guy has to sell. Scrolls. Ooh, nice. Cool. Bulk selling. Yeah, we can. Bless Weapon, Shield. Bless Weapon would be pretty useful. Protection from Chaos Communal would probably be pretty dope. Burning Arc is pretty great. Create Pit. I've seen that. It's spell Magic Point. Haste is pretty dope. Quite a bit of Diamond Dust to use. Scrolls of Raised Dead. Good to know. Got some moderates. Wounds, remove everything's. Lesser Extend Metamagic Rod. Spend spell feat, that's pretty nice. Natural Armor +1, Ring of Protection +1, Bracers of the Wizard. +3 competence bonus on all knowledge arcana. Be dope. Do not have the monies for that though. And then a whole this guy was not lying. He has a fuck ton of spells. Icy Protector, Cold Resistance 10, and if they have the Ice Plant Hex, it also grants them +2. Wow! That's pretty nice. That would give Camellia another +2 AC. Guardian of Life. As long as the wearer of this amulet is under the effects of the Death Ward spell, you gain a +2 morale bonus to AC against the attacks of undead creatures. Oddly specific. If they use any single target cure spells on a target whose current number of HP is 0 or less, the target is healed for an additional number of HP equal to their number of hit dice. That's interesting, but kind of a weirdly specific option. Alchemist kits. Cool. Scribers kits. Cool. Not gonna worry about that until we get an alchemist or a scroll scriber. I think Ninio comes as a scroll scriber, so that pretty simple there. My god, this guy has so much of everything. He is not kidding. He has a scroll for every situation. Protection from fire. Funnels for protection from fire. Be really good. Resist acid community. Dragon's breath. Holy shit. Amazon but with magic, basically. Holy fuck. Wand of reduce person. How many charges? 34 charges? God damn. Yeah, that's actually not bad, truth be told. 34 casts of reduced person. That's pretty fucking neato. For 510 gold? Like, god damn. Like, I might actually buy that, like, right now. You know? Putting reduced person on, like, you know, Sela or something like that is just a nice passive boost to AC. Wand of enlarge person. Fuck yeah, 33 charges for enlarge person. Enlarging land is a really good DPS boost. Shocking grasp. Less so about that. Less so about you know, spells that are or scroll or wands that are effects like attacks or things like that. Transforms your hands into living stone. Unarmed strikes do not provoke attacks of opportunity and deal 1d6. Molten orb. Like a mini fireball. 50 charges. DC class 13. Caster level 3. Greater curse of weakness. There's a lot that this guy has. Like a whole fucking bunch. Kinda crazy. Oh man, do the wands count as usable? Yeah. Fuck. So they're gonna be in the same section as the scrolls. That's kind of unfortunate. This game needs a DC to use a wand for a non-magic user? Yes. Yeah. So, well, not for a non-magic user specifically. It's for there is the skill use magic device. So everything has a difficulty class, and your difficulty check's always going to be based off of what your use magic device skill is. So if you want to use magic, like scrolls or wands or things like that, you need to put points into use magic device, which, you know, is not too terribly hard. Ray of Frost, I did not see that earlier. I am somewhat interested in the reduce and enlarge, so I think I might actually grab those. Those are pretty useful. $1,000 gold for that's pretty spot on, I think. Okay, cool. Got LAN.
I feel like a chosen one.
So, for example, I have plus 12 to my use magic device. So, and I have a.
Here we go again.
I've got a. Not a difficulty class for the Cure Light Wounds. I don't know. $20. Bad. This game's lack of text to search box for every interaction with the stash. Yeah. It could definitely benefit from a search function. Absolutely. 100% agreed. Alright, let's talk to Lan real quick. Here for a chat. I've been waiting for you to come and see what strange beasts you've taken into your party. I'd like to know more about you. Oh, okay, so we're gonna settle in. We're gonna be able to ask everyone all their questions. Let me guess, your first question is, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Am I right? I mean, that's not a horrible question. Can you wear a hat with your one horn? Sure I can, but certain designs don't suit me too well. Lan speaks in a deadly serious voice. You speak common much better than the rest of your tribe. Funnily enough, common isn't all that common underground, Lan says, but your observation is correct. I used to live on the surface with my parents for a while. Had a chance to learn a couple of things. The language, the fact that every peasant who sees my scaly mug screams demon and runs away. Nice. I can't believe that had to scar you as a child. I don't know if you're interested, but my mom wasn't from an underground tribe. She was a smuggler, the kind that used the dungeons of Canabras to secretly move and store goods. One time, two gangs couldn't agree on how to share a prime cut, got into a fight, and the winners threw the losers down a hole, dead and living alike. My dad went to check if the corpses had anything useful on them. He found a girl from the surface, barely clinging to life. Incredible feelings sparked between them. Or maybe the girl just liked men with scales and a cat nose. That might be it. One way or the other, he got her back on her feet, and later even left his home caves. She left her smuggling behind, and they began an honest life together. That's the delightful story of how old Lan came into the world. The next chapter, however, my family and I never stayed in one place for long. We lived sometimes on the surface, sometimes underground. We couldn't find a place to call home. Living in the caves was hard on my mom, and my dad's appearance raised too many questions in Mindev. They're at war against the demons after all. In the end, my parents decided to stop making each other miserable and separated. My father and I returned to our tribe. I think the peasants screaming demon had something to do with it. Or maybe Dad just couldn't stand life without rat tail soup. I wouldn't rule out that possibility. Did you come with me so you could see the surface again? No, that wasn't it. I just don't have much patience for certain types of creatures. Demons, I mean. If they want to destroy Canabras, I'll be on the side of the people they're attacking. Lan looks away. Lan, you're my companion, and companions should trust each other. I'm counting on you to give me honest answers, not excuses. Lan looks ashamed. I guess you're right. Couldn't have been so evasive. It's just that some things are hard to talk about, my family, for example. My birth, hell take me, turned out to be a great misfortune for my parents, all because I'm relatively healthy. I'm the best thing that can come from a marriage between a cave-dwelling mongrel and anyone from the surface. A healthy child with the right number of hands and feet, no apparent defects, no missing organs or other problems. They saw hope in me, though risked having more children. They thought it would somehow be all right. A growl edges into Lan's voice. I could have had 4 brothers. The first was born 2 years after me and died 3 years later. He didn't have a nose, nothing even remotely resembling one. He could only breathe through his mouth. Mom and Dad were afraid to take their eyes off him for fear he'd choke and suffocate on something. But in the end, it was his weak heart that killed him. Then there was another pregnancy, and birth. I pretended I was sleeping, but snuck out of my bedroom and listened under the door. All those hours. It was very strange, but I never heard the newborn screaming. Mom moaning, yes, the priests praying. And I dared to open the door a little and looked inside. The priest stood there, very pale. One of them was holding something, a small object fit in his palm. He asked, "Know what this is?" The other said, "I think it's a head." Lan stops. Enough. You don't have to keep going if it hurts you. Hell no. I started to tell you and I'll make it to the end. You want to know why I followed you to the surface? Well, here's the reason. Lan pauses, exhales, and continues in a steadier voice. It turned out that this time Mom was expecting triplets. The first of the babies was born into pieces. The 2 others didn't live long enough to draw their first breath. About 3 weeks later, my father took me to the caves. He didn't want to leave. I could see it in his face, but I think my mom and he decided it together. The curse my people have carried since the first Crusade stood between them, not to mention the 4 dead babies. And old age was rapidly taking its toll on my father. After we returned to the cave, he lived another 4 years. Taste for the dramatic? Absolutely. So if you're asking me why I decided to go up with you to the surface and join the Crusaders, well, the answer is I've always wanted to. I was afraid to leave my tribe, but it always haunted me that I'd die in a world where 4 Crusades could do nothing to stop the beasts from the abyss. The number of victims kept growing. I want to change that. Or at least try to. And if changing things is too much to ask, then at least get a little revenge. The ones who are behind the world wound owe me a great debt. The lives of 4 brothers, all my mother's tears, and my father's broken heart. It's a lot. So much that killing a couple of demons won't do it for me. I want to do something real. I'm ready to pay any price. Call it my personal crusade if you like. Lan gives you a slanted grin. I used to think that things would be better if I'd never been born. Now I know, but now I think I was born for this, to settle the score. Would you like to find your mother? No. The word flies from Lan's mouth faster than an arrow. Then, after a pause, he continues. I don't want to meet her, not because I feel any resentment. Just that she's a half-elf. She's barely got her first gray hair, and I'll be a ramshackle old man. She's buried enough children. There's no need to make her witness the death of another. I hope you understand. Why didn't you go up and join the Crusaders before? I couldn't just abandon my tribe. I'm their best hunter. They'll have it much harder without me. But now that the demons have nearly destroyed Canabras, and the caves almost collapsed on our heads, sitting and waiting it out just wasn't an option anymore. Anyway, I'm more useful up here than I am down there. Plus, the chief let me go, which means my debt to the tribe has been paid. Thanks for sharing, Lan. Thanks for listening. Tell me your story again? No. Okay. Aha! Here we go. Mongrels have short lifespans, but you don't look like you're getting old and dying. How old are you? Lan chuckles. I'm as old as I look. No surprises there. But remember Sol? He's 10 years older than me. I remember him back when he was a fearless warrior, and day by day I watched him turn into an old man. Him and my father. It happens very quickly. First, you miss a shot because you don't see the target as clearly as you used to. You think it's because your eyes are tired. Tell yourself it'll be better tomorrow. Then you notice you're having trouble breathing. That climbing is harder than before. Lan clenches and unclenches his human fist. Your fingers stop bending. You have to tie your sword to your hand. You can't even put on your greaves without help. When you're washing your face in a stream, sometimes you catch sight of a gray-haired, wrinkled old man you don't recognize. This goes on, until one day you come across a cave beast and you realize you can't outrun it. Lan takes a breath. My dad kept diaries, marking all the signs. I saw it too. The last year I had to help him get out of bed, help him dress, remind him to eat. Sometimes he forgot my name. I told him that we should have stayed on the surface, and he joked that dodging a goddess was behavior unworthy of a crusader. Meant for Asma, which I think is the goddess of death. Every morning I wake up and check how I feel. There are no signs yet. Even so, I know I don't have much time. I need to do something useful before I forget why I'm here. I want to talk about Windwog. You sure? Lan sighs. Alright. Tell me about your connection to Windwog. My connection to Windwog? I mean, where do I start? Lan turns the unexpressive reptile half of his face to you. We grew up together, trained together. She was the chief's daughter. She was groomed to be the best all her life, and then I came along. We were rivals, but we dragged each other out of tight spots, too. Yeah, a zealot with a death wish, basically. I've always been drawn to grand heroic gestures, sometimes idiotic ones, whereas Windu liked to roam unexplored passages, find new caves, and making maps. She wanted to be a great huntress, the one who make it through the shield maze, but instead she... Lan shakes his head. It'd be better if she died. The death of a friend is painful, but watching a friend become a shadow of their former self is unbearable. She doesn't think she's a shadow of her former self. Were you just friends, or were you more than that? Wow, you really don't pull your punches, do you? Lan exhales loudly. There was a time when I asked myself the same question. Windwog knew me better than anyone. She understood me better than anyone. She was the first girl I ever... We never loved each other. Maybe I could have grown to love her, but it always seemed like she never understood what love was. Maybe she just wasn't capable of those kinds of feelings. She doesn't seem to think she's a shadow of her former self. Of course, she thinks she did everything right, because the second she starts to doubt herself, she'll have to face the truth. To admit that she's just a cannibal that demons use as they wish. Lan's frown looks almost like a wince. She wants to get stronger and stronger, but for what? I'll never understand what drives her. Thanks, I found out everything I wanted to know. Alright, what do we got? I found everything I wanted to know. Tell me about your people. Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll be here for like 2 hours, y'all. Have fun. I'm not actually complaining. I love world building, and I love lore and stuff like that. I just wish more of this type of stuff was less, you know, ticking off the dialogue boxes. Expositioned up, here we go. Right, absolutely. I just wish more of this type to point back to that earlier episode where I was like, this is good writing, where, you know, Windu and Lan were talking, and they both mentioned, you know, Windu mentioned, is this what the sun looks like? And Lan was like, yeah, so that tells us that Lan has seen the sun, but Windu hasn't, which tells us more information. So that type of exposition is good. That kind of dialogue is good, right? Because it feeds us lore and information about the world without us having to just take down the dialogue boxes, right? You should take, obviously some of this stuff, you know, is hard to put into natural conversation, but trying to take as much of it and shove it into the natural dialogue that the characters go through is definitely the way to go. That's hard to do in a CRPG though, right? Because there's so much world building that you want to put in, and you want to give the players so much choice that it's kind of defaulted into the concept that the best way to do it is to just be like, just leave it into the dialogue options. That way people can skip it if they want to, which, you know, I get. Anyways, what's it like living in your caves? Oh, Lan gives you a broad smile. His smile is strange, as if it falters where his human features meet his animal ones. Imagine that in the entire world there's only a few hundred like you. There's not an inch of fertile ground anywhere. Nowhere to grow grain for bread or cotton or linen for cloth. Your neighbors are beasts who want to eat you, or parasites who want to infect you with their larvae, and then eat you. And it's not that bad, because you can try to eat most of the things that are trying to eat you. Sometimes at the risk of getting poisoned, sometimes with almost no risk at all. In the worst years, there's not a single living thing anywhere to be found, predator or prey. That's when you eat mushroom soup. I'd say 3 times a day, but there was barely enough for once every 3 days. Lan shrugs. Life underground has its upsides, pun intended. There's no risk of losing the roof over your head. There's no bad weather, not counting the earthquakes. Jesus, are you really the descendant of the first Crusaders? We're like demon spawn, aren't we? Sad but true. Without the demons, there would be no mongrels. It's the magic of the world wound that affected our ancestors and made their children the way we are. Like most in our tribe, Chief Sull fancies himself a descendant of the underground Crusaders, the ones our heroic ancestors left to guard the caves. I don't know if it's true or not. That angel came to our caves for a reason. Maybe he remembered us. Those were evil and dangerous times after the First Crusade. Hundreds of Crusaders began having children, and the babies were born with fangs and horns and warts that covered half their face. People didn't like the new look. The Inquisitors sure didn't. So our ancestors fled persecution and made a home for themselves down there, under the ground. They probably intended to find a cure for their children, hoped to return in time. Never happened. Instead, the world wound's terrible legacy was passed down from generation to generation. Mongrel parents can only guess what their children will look like. Each of us is born with a new mutation. Many mutations are fatal. Lan stops, then goes on quietly. Down in the caves, we usually don't congratulate the family for the birth of a child, until they turn at least 3. Most don't even get a name before that. No point. It hasn't been that long since the First Crusade. Why do you know so little about your ancestors? Our lives are much shorter than most uplanders. Up here, only a few generations passed. Many still live to remember old Sarkoris as it stood untouched by the demons. Queen Galfrey, for example. Where we live, mongrels start getting older much earlier than humans, much faster, with more devastating consequences. Few live past 40, and fewer still live long enough to die of old age. Hunger, disease, and monsters from the deep are more effective killers than time. Sarkoris. The lost Kelid realm of Sarkoris was a savage land. Didn't we already read this? Not sure if we actually read this, but we read Erodins, and I think it's basically the same information. So for us, the story of the First Crusade is a legend that happened generations ago. There are no living witnesses. We have a tale of the wise and great ancestors who left us to stand guard in the catacombs. But in reality, I suspect they were desperate wretches who couldn't find out how to dispel the demonic plague, who were abandoned by their own kind. You have a way to tell day and night? Can't see the sun in your caves. Every mongrel settlement has a big gong, which we treat like a relic. The gong keeper hits it twice a day to mark the beginning and end. But this custom doesn't keep time very precisely. Every mongrel child has snuck up to the gong to strike it at the wrong time at least once, just out of pure mischief. Nothing could keep me away from it, not even the fact that I only have one ear, which means it would take double the punishment once I was caught. Oh my goodness. So, sometimes the wrong strikes get mixed in with the right ones, and the tribe can find itself jumping up to greet the morning in the middle of the night. Do mongrel tribes fight each other? There were some skirmishes. I've been forced to kill my kinfolk before, too. Land speaks in a steady voice. Fights most often break out over food. We have laws in the caves, written and unwritten rules that we follow. We respect one another's right to live, but hunger, it can push a person over the edge. I stepped away for a while to get lunch and take a shower, and we're still in this conversation, good lord. Yeah, this is a lot of exposition. We talked to Camellia in the previous episode, and she had like 5 minutes worth of dialogue. Lan has like 30 minutes worth of dialogue, apparently. So, kind of a bit much. I've never, you can count on that, stolen someone else's kill. But I can understand those of my kin who tried. To hear your kids begging for food and not be able to feed them is terrifying. He frowns and goes silent. You're the only member of the Neathholm tribe to call your people mongrels. Why is that? Huh? Because all of Golarion calls us that? I don't see the point of all this hemming and hawing over what we're called. Anyone who finds it offensive or takes issue with it can lead the charge against the name. No one's stopping them. But personally, I'm not going to pick a fight over something as unimportant as a name. Alright, thank you. Found out which... Okay. We've gone through 2. What do you think of life on the surface? It must be very different from life underground. Of course. As far as living conditions, the surface is definitely a better place to be. It's easier to get good food and water, not to mention to build a house or even grow a few things. In older, well-established settlements, you don't have to deal with anything scarier than rats or maybe foxes stealing chickens. As for the kind of lives you have, I heard a story about demon worshippers abducting a whole family and sacrificing them one by one while the others watched. There are some brave crusader knights nearby. They killed the villains and saved everyone. And I heard another story. A young blacksmith lost his arm in a fire, couldn't work to feed his wife and baby. They tried their best and lived from hand to mouth. They were still destitute. In the end, the desperate blacksmith robbed a traveler one night on the road. There were some brave crusader knights nearby. They caught the robber and threw him in prison. Not long after, his wife smothered their baby and hanged herself. Oof. Yeah, there's the good and the bad. Up here, the same person can proudly say he's protecting the innocent from demons, and then look the other way while the same innocent starves just because they were born into a poor family. Queen Galfrey prolongs her life with the sun orchid elixirs that cost enough to feed an entire city. Back in our caves, everyone is equally poor. If one person starves, the whole tribe starves. We don't abandon our own in times of trouble. That's the power of a tribe. The laws of the surface are made so that some get everything and others get nothing. I might just be a naive fool from the caves, but I don't understand how it's possible to have so much more and share so much less. Oof. Big oof. Anyway, look who I'm talking to. You must know life on the surface better than I do. Yeah, I'm gonna hit him with that chaotic. Yes, I also have a few questions for our feckless aristocracy. But I guess they'll have to wait until we drive the demons back into the abyss and close the world wound. Lan smiles a strange half-smile, which breaks along the border between the two sides of his face. At the end of the day, the world is full of injustice. It's also full of mad beasts ready to tear us to pieces. You said you were prepared to risk your life to do something meaningful. What exactly do you mean? To invent a new salad and have it named after me. Yeah! Fuck yeah, social commentary? Abso-fucking-lutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Truth be told, I don't know. It'd be much easier if all I really wanted was to kill demons, then a few more demons, then more demons after that. Good honest rage and no needless brooding. I think I actually envy the warriors who can live like that. But I can't. If life's taught me anything, it's that there's no easy choices. Dying a glorious death isn't enough. Some heroes of the Crusade did that and also saved entire settlements, erected the ward stones. Their actions kept the lands of Medivh safe for decades. That's what I want. For my dumb, short life to have meant something. Yeah, this is more of the same. I read that. You think I've exaggerated opinion of myself. Some scaly freak crawls out of the caves and wants to take control of the wardstones and flaunt Diomede's banner. Any fool can charge at the front lines of the demonic armies and die there. But what good would that do? I want something meaningful, you know? Even if I have to pay the highest price. Especially if I have to pay it. There are plenty of worthier people who need to survive this war and tell everyone else what nutcases we are. Okay, and that's it. Sweet. Alright. Outside. We've got pink eye. Ah, shit. A pink eye. An imposing young Oread is surrounded by a group of crusaders who are hanging on her every last word. I hope this example clearly illustrates the difference between Justka legionnaires from the last war and the crusaders. The perfection of form and spirit they were imbued with during creation turned them into parts of a well-balanced war machine, not a ragtag bunch of individuals, but a united whole. Justka. The Justka Imperium was the first human kingdom to establish itself on the Inner Sea region after the centuries of darkness and devastation caused by Earthfall. Its citizens spoke a nearly forgotten language called Justka, whose alphabet became the basis of the alphabets of the modern languages of Skald, Verisian, and Taldane. At its height, it dominated all the northwestern Gurund and also parts of southwestern Avestan. Raids of desert nomads and attacks by powerful outsiders from 3,300 onward, minus 3,300 onward, and the lack of a strong eastern trade route led to the slow decline of Justka. Osirian, then a burgeoning kingdom under the control of the powerful Pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues, pushed westward. It overthrew the already weakened Justka, and the Imperium was plunged into numerous succession wars around minus 2,764. From which it was never again able to recover its former political, military, and economic power. Because of its military and economic defeat, the important cultural, magical, and technological advances of the Justka Imperium were largely lost and forgotten. Okay. Now tell me again why I'm supposed to be impressed by your reckless assaults, where everyone is fighting for their ego and the right to beat their peers to a swift but pointless heroic sacrifice. Some of the Crusaders grumble unhappily, but it's clear that they are captivated by the woman's words. The only exception is a scraggly and disheveled halfling monk whose puffy black eye gives him away as a brawler and troublemaker. He enthusiastically pushes forward and tries to engage, but one of his friends swiftly grabs him with the back of his elbow, in the back of the elbow, making the poor fellow pause to catch his breath. Who swiftly jabs him in the back with an elbow. Gotcha. I think we interject, right? Because otherwise the guy's gonna start a fight. Looks like we got ourselves a student of warfare. The woman gives you a suspicious look and raises an eyebrow. Were your words meant to recognize my achievements, or to start a fight the way Mendevian crusaders usually do? Well, I'm actually trying to prevent a fight because you're being rather fucking crass. One of the crusaders angrily curls his fist tightly and retorts with a burst of passion. If those Justs of yours, or whatever, had come for us, we'd have their guts for garters. Think we've never fought a mighty adversary before? The soldier's stern facade cannot fully conceal his relish. He clearly plans to enjoy this confrontation. The crusaders around him look upon their exotic opponent with a mixture of irritation and piqued interest. The woman chuckles before cutting off her interlocutor. I would love to see you storm a 60-foot-tall walking castle shaped like a gigantic elephant that carries siege fortifications on its back. And I'll have you know these fortifications were defended by Justkin priest craftsmen armed with demon-bound war machines. Sounds fucking dope. They use the enemies you cannot defeat as mindless weapons. The woman gives the people around her a triumphant look and adjusts her hair with pointed nonchalance. Her voice takes a lecturer's tone. You should not argue with someone who happens to be the most authoritative researcher on the history of warfare 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. Oh my god, Well, actually... Like, holy shit. Indara? Calm the fuck down. What's Absalom? For more than 4,000 years, Absalom has been the city at the center of the world, a metropolis-sized showcase of the greatest treasures on all Golarion. The city not only holds a key strategic position for both commercial and military endeavors in the region, but encompasses the site of the ascension of 4 deities and claims to have been founded by none other than the last Aslanti, the god Erodin. Okay. The woman looks at you and flashes an amused smile. The lecture is over. Do my esteemed listeners have any questions? Who are you? I am Indara, a warrior, magus, and scholar of classical warfare from Gerund. The woman peers at you apprehensively, then sighs. I admit I am mildly offended by the fact that my name is entirely unfamiliar to you, but I'm willing to accept that this is due to Avastan's isolation from the sophisticated culture of the world at large. You've come a long way to be here. I like to think of myself as an inhabitant of Golarion, and I don't narrowly identify with any country in particular. Why did you come here? To witness a legendary war, the confrontation between denizens of a plane famous for its love of violence and the Crusaders from every continent united by the common goal of defending their homeland. An epic struggle of colossal proportions that hasn't been particularly epic so far, truth be told. Fucking ouch. The monk with the black eye grins and mutters under his breath. Maybe she just can't see it from here. The view will get way more epic if she starts hiding among us and takes a walk outside. The woman smirks contemptuously. She does not deem the monk's words worthy of comment. And it looks like she does know a lot about warfare. Looks like you know more about warfare than any of us. Oh? Am I hearing things, or did someone finally acknowledge my competence in the art of warfare? Perhaps there's a sufficiently open-minded person among the Crusaders after all. I find myself pleasantly surprised. Join the Crusaders and show them how fighting should be done. Oh, no, I am a historian, an analyst, a theorist. You know what these 3 words have in common. They describe a mortal woman who does not participate in the conflict upon which her thesis will be founded. But, then again, I will hardly be able to describe this mess as anything other than a feeble likeness of the last war of Gistka. The monk with the damaged eye grins slyly and comments, The more dangerous the upcoming scuffle is, the more motivated we are to find clever and pretty words to justify not actually doing the fighting. What's this last war you mentioned? The last war of Gistka, of course. A large-scale conflict that took place 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. It's a war against the Osirian pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues, the war that ended the legendary Gistka Imperium. An epic struggle that became the most vibrant page in military history. Alas, all conflicts to be followed were but a pale shadow, including the one I am witnessing here. During this time, the demon have won the war, eaten the world, and go to space war with space elves, keeping... Yeah, absolutely. Like, every 30 minutes that we spend in here is another 3,000 people dying in the city. Like, 100%. Oh, goodness. No urgency. I have 0 urgency. One of the first civilizations to rise in the wake of the Earthfall, Osirian is one of the greatest empires in the history of Golarion, a nation with great knowledge, wealth, and power. Its ancient land harbors pyramids, mummies, terrible curses, and endless sand. as well as a culture steeped in proud traditions, devout respect for the gods, dedication to communal service, and unswerving devotion to its rulers. Osirian today is just emerging from millennia of Kelishite rule and regaining the legacy of the pharaohs supplanted by these foreign oppressors. Cool. Why do you find the last war of Jiska so inspiring? Imagine legions of golems imbued with extraplanar spirits marching into battle. Imagine flying cities that swoop out of the clouds like terrifying monstrous birds of prey to drop forces on top enemy castles. Picture gigantic mechanisms powered by captive and very angry demons and devils. Imagine standing in the warpath of walking citadels or having to cover your ears to block out the sound of cannons loaded with shrieking elementals. Finally, imagine the ultimate weapon that defended the Jiska, the deadly night plague. This affliction was an attack dog, a trained epidemic, a tamed pestilence, striking only those whose master wanted to kill. Imagine all these terrors and understanding that no flight of fancy can even come close to the horror of the nightmares that they made real. How do you know so much about the Jiska's last war? I can say without false modesty that there is no more authoritative researcher on Golarion when it comes to the history of warfare 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. I've dedicated my whole life to this subject. I've personally visited old battlefields and studied the most mysterious and forbidden archives containing chronicles of ancient wars, sometimes risking my life in the process. I saw a fallen sky city of the Shori Empire with my own eyes. I ripped out the control crystal from an exterminator-class combat golem that guarded a Jiska laboratory with my own hands. These fingers held the glass flask that the servants of Pharaoh Forgotten Plagues used to create the first generation of pestilence that devastated the Jiska Imperium. How do I know so much? I saw and touched everything I'm telling you about. Alright. Let's hit her with this one. Let's school the teacher. You're wrong to treat the Crusaders with such disdain. Allow me to explain. Oh, a debate. I will be happy to prove that the world conflict can't hold a candle to the last war of Jiska. Very well. The last war of Jiska was waged using a significantly greater number of troops. Both sides actively relied on reinforcements from allied planes, and their strategic planning was perfected through no fewer than 7 rounds of intensive design. None of the above applies to this war of yours. Compared to Jiska, we are but stone club-wielding kobolds. I would like to conclude my thesis with a few words of wise counsel from Dagon, an advisor of the Pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues. I doubt you will comprehend the true genius of his statement, but here it is nevertheless. A gadfly sees the ox. The ox pays no heed to the gadfly, but crimson fever takes them both. We have a plus 12. The events of the past are shrouded in legend, but the fate of the world is being decided here and now. That is what you fail to grasp. Principles of war are always the same. Weapons, causes, and resources may change, but the foundations remain immutable. Just fucking stab her. I don't think we're gonna go with the stab option. We'll go with our plus 12. Diplomacy 15. Failed. Well, we're probably gonna re-roll that, by the way, because I know you get a weapon from her if you win. Anyways. Said he, standing in the middle of a dingy tavern. Indara graciously accepts the chuckling of her audience. One mustn't overestimate the importance of the current events of the world history. Should Canabras fall, it would become yet another page in the chronicles of the Whirlwound conflict. Sure, should it endure, it will be fortunate to earn any mention at all. Alright. Let's try this one. Succeeded. Indara's eyes display frustration as she hears the audience, clearly impressed by your argument, murmur approval. There's logic in your words, I give you that. Yes, the concept of war does not change, but the degree of sophistication in the methods that we use to destroy our foes... The woman stops, realizing her words, no matter how ostentatious she makes them, no longer have the power to captivate the audience. As a scholar, I cannot deny that there is a certain truth beneath your skeptical statements. History is a complex discipline rooted in fact and an evidentiary base that grows ever more meager the farther the described period is from the present moment. I need to buy this game for a Barbarian Int 3 gameplay. Just kill everything. Just smash. Just come in and smash. Of course, if I were to argue in bad faith, the Crusaders embellished their tales of slaying a single Bremerac by adding a dozen Balors, for example, I could win this debate. But I am above such things, and therefore am forced to admit that your skepticism is not entirely without merit. We'll hit her with the positive. I'm sure you would have been able to expound your arguments in a longer discussion. Dara nods with obvious relief. I'm glad we both understand this limitation. It's always a pleasure to face a worthy opponent, even if debate takes place in a grimy tavern. Perhaps especially because of that. Indara unbuckles her sword belt and hands you the weapon. This is a worthy blade. It will be of use not only for the strong, but also for the wise. Claw of Jiska. And this is where I bid you farewell. Before the end of the day, I was planning to observe how winged demons use pack tactics to drive their prey like herds of livestock. It is about time I got back to my research. A hint of a smile graces Indara's lips when she sees disappointment in the eyes of many crusaders around her. Stay safe. The IRL version of the YouTube debate, bro, is insufferable. Right. Oh, she just fucking dimension door. She seems cool though. A bit stuck up, but she seems cool. Okay, she gave us the Claw of Jiska, which I think is
Beautiful.
If we run over here, I'm pretty sure Home Dude will identify for us. Show me what you. Oh, it's already identified. It's a +1 flaming short sword. Is that... I am somewhat... I wonder if that is the exact same thing. I'm gonna load real quick. And we're gonna just through all that and see if she says anything different if we succeed. Of course, I'm not trying to diminish the importance of current events. What I'm trying to say is that from the standpoint of history, and particularly the history of warfare, she falls silent, fixedly staring at the unfriendly eyes of her audience. The true importance of these developments won't become obvious until later. Okay. Okay, so you just have to beat her. That's very forgiving. You just have to win one of those two, and if you try one, you can still try the other. So that's a very forgiving situation. Good to know. Either way, though, we get the Claw of Jiska, which is a +1 flaming short sword. So it does 1d6 +1 piercing damage, and then an additional 1d6 fire damage, which is cool. Not the crazy, not like, oh my god, finesse. Finesse means that you can use it, when you're wielding it, you can use dex or strength. Yeah, basically. So you can still use it as a strength weapon. It'll basically just take whichever is higher, strength or dex, for whoever's using it. Yeah. That is the finesse property. And the flaming, I'm sure a lot of people, when they first get this, are going to be like, oh my god, it does 2d6 damage, that's so OP. Except, you're fighting a lot of demons, and a lot of demons have resistance to fire damage, and this isn't a cold iron weapon, so, you know, it's cool, but it's not like, oh, so good, right? It's just neat. Alright, anyways, more chatting.
Beautiful.
Hilor, Irabeth. We got some loot. What is this? Info. Okay, this is a read everything playthrough. Woo! Here we go. The first of the astonishing exploits of Venture Captain Hilor, published by the Pathfinder Society. The Spinner of Nightmares let out a fiendish laugh, and the wind rose up, sending the sound rippling across the roof of the cavernous temple and off into the darkening sky. Cannot protect them. The demon worshipper performed a graceful pirouette, as though she were mocking the ungainly venture captain who was slowly picking his way across the slippery roof tiles. You may have saved Anthocletus today, but you won't save everyone who gets in my way. I will always be one step ahead, plunging a dagger into the heart of the next fool and sullying your path with blood that you will never be able to wipe clean. Hilor lost his footing once again, and only by a miracle did he not go plummeting to his death. His heart threatened to beat right out of his chest, but his mind was consumed with the feverish awareness of how close he was to his target. Only a few dozen paces separated him from the spinner of nightmares, close enough to shoot, but the venture captain wanted to make sure the bolt wouldn't kill her, merely maim and immobilize her. The hand crossbow that Hilor concealed under the folds of his cloak was throwing off his balance. The jig's up, the spinner of nightmares. The venture captain leaned forward as though trying to catch his breath, a diversionary tactic designed to weaken the vigilance of the villain, who seemed to be waiting for something at the peak of the roof. You have one chance to save your pathetic life. Surrender, now! The spinner of nightmares froze as if considering the captain's words before lunging forward like a snake and spitting with contempt. You will never see her again! Click, twang. The whistle of the bolt released from its cradle, and the swish of the spinner of nightmares' cloak as she dodged the shot, laughing. Oh, that hurts. Hilor let out a bellow, pouring all his hatred and despair into the shout, dashing forward, and slipping on the roof, tumbled to his knees. Gripping a jagged roof tile with his last remaining strength, the venture captain swallowed a grunt of pain and raised his head, only to watch his daughter's abductor be swept away on a black wind. I will find you, the spinner of nightmares! Hilor's shout seems to carry far and wide across the whole of Mendev. I will find you, and I will tear out your duplicitous heart! Okie dokie then. Isn't this... He's standing right here? Where the fuck is this guy? A tall, athletic man greets you. His hair is prematurely gray and shorn close to his head in a military style. He is lean and well-groomed, and a monocle twinkles coldly in his eye. The bold side of his jaw and his large but agile frame attest that here is a man who is always ready to be on the move. Greetings, I am Hilor, venture captain of the Pathfinder Society. I'm the superior officer among Pathfinders in this region of Mendev. Okay, so he's the guy that lets us hire randos, basically. However, the Society is running off almost no operations here right now. Besides me, there are almost no Pathfinders here. Actually, I'm only stuck here because of an old feud with a demon worshipper known as the Spinner of Nightmares. I've had to work alone without the support of the Society, but I've made a lot of acquaintances among the local mercenaries and daring fighters. If you need any good fighters for an honest cause, talk to me. Cool. Pathfinder. The Pathfinder Society is a globe-spanning organization based in Absalom. The membership consists primarily of Pathfinders, adventurers who travel through Golarion, usually inconspicuously, and explore, delve, and otherwise experience the lesser-seen parts of the world. They send journals documenting their travels back to their venture captains, who also assign them new missions and suggest new places to explore. The most exciting and illuminating of these journals are compiled in the Pathfinder Chronicles, an ongoing series of books that collect the history and mystery of Golarion for its membership and the general public. The Pathfinder Society being kind of like the quintessential, oh, this is Pathfinder, right? Like, you don't have an idea for your campaign? Just be part of the Pathfinder Society. Done. Which is cool. It's pretty neat. Tell me about your confrontation with the Spinner of Nightmares. It all began with a task of the Pathfinder Society. I arrived in Nerosian with my team to investigate the sudden death of a famous crusader, Baron Falrun. We soon focused on a small hospital for the wealthy, where Falrun was being treated shortly before his death. It turned out that a gang of Baphomet cultists, calling themselves the Labyrinth of Mind, had gotten a foothold at the hospital. They were obsessed with twisting the minds of their victims and targeted fragile people too weak to resist. The hospital was filled with perfect victims, isolated for weeks from the outside world, completely helpless. When they returned, they were different. Almost normal. But the moment they heard a certain phrase, something dark awoke in their mind. They transformed into servants of Baphomet, ready to lie, betray, and even kill. The Labyrinth of Mind was preparing to infiltrate all the elite circles in Mindev, but Baron Falren stopped them. He was too loyal to his oath, too resistant to their spells. He fought for his freedom until the strain broke his heart. We opened and cleaned the city of Baphomet's pit of vipers. Their den was a cradle of sin and filth. They cast spells on each other, and their loathsome fantasies stepped real from their minds into the world. They dreamt of horrible and forbidden things. They fought like mad. We burned the place to the ground and slaughtered everyone we could, but the leaders of the cult were able to flee. Were set upon revenge. They abducted my daughter, Lori, who served under my command in the Pathfinder Society. They left me a note full of tart insults, mockeries, sneer. From that note, I learned the name of my enemy, the Spinner of Nightmares. A few months later, I confirmed that she was the leader of the Labyrinth of Mind. My hunt had begun. I would get Lori back at any cost. Hilor grits his teeth with bulldog determination. Want to know more about you? What exactly are you interested in? A common Pathfinder. Many others like me. Fate and my orders brought me to this land. How'd you end up here? I was working on an assignment for the Pathfinder Society, and then a demon worshipper named the Spinner of Nightmares abducted my daughter Lori. For the past 3 years, I've been trying to save her. During this time, I've become a specialist in scouting demon territory. I've even planted agents among the cultists. Truth be told, in pursuing the Spinner of Nightmares, I've been acting more on behalf of Queen Galfrey than the Pathfinder Society. It's a long story. Maybe I'll tell you the rest of it in some time. Hilor frowns grimly. The Spinner of Nightmares is a true spawn of the Abyss. I've fought her many times, but I've never been able to seize her by the throat. It'd be really cool if we can fight off against the Spinner of Nightmares. That'll be neat. Tell me about your daughter. 3 years. His daughter is not going to be in great shape. I would imagine, right? As a girl, Lori was just an angel. We lost her mother early on. She was left to follow my example, a drifter with little idea of how to talk to a 10-year-old girl. But even with such questionable parenting, Lori managed to grow into a wonderful girl. Brave, smart, beautiful, entirely unbearable. She's always argued with me about everything. When Lori was 18, told me she was going to be a Pathfinder, all I said was, all right. I knew there was no use to try and talk her out of it. She was a fine Pathfinder. Hilor's fist clenched with a painful-sounding crack. I'll never forgive the Spinner of Nightmares for taking my girl from me. About the Pathfinder Society. Pathfinder Society is a global organization that unites opportunists and adventurers of all kinds to explore the world and uncover its secrets, travel, and sometimes face down threats. In times of trouble, the latter becomes our primary focus. We're driven by curiosity and the desire to make the world a better place. And of course, some seek profit or hunger for glory. But in any case, it's hard work. It might send you anywhere on a mission. Weaklings have little place in the society. It's more for seasoned fighters. There are society lodges in many cities. The closest one is in Nerosian. They're each led by venture captains, lads like me. The Grand Lodge is in Absalom, the center of the world. The Decemvirate sits there, the anonymous council of our leaders. I have no more questions. Okay, so I need brave and experienced fighters. You can rely on my lads, but you'll have to pay them. 4,500 is their standard rate. I don't have that kind of money right now. Sorry, but the Society has established universal rates to avoid competition between Pathfinders of different countries. Well, my companions and I need good training. I'll be a great mentor from Absalom for the first few times. I will get a great mentor from Absalom. For the first few times, he'll train your fighters free of charge. What? I don't know what that's really for. Let's do a quick save and then check. Train me. Oh, is this a retrain? This is a retrain is what this is. Yeah, so the first few times we get free of charge retrains. Sweet. All right, cool. Well, I think the only people we have to talk left, I knew as soon as we stepped into this inn, I was like, this is going to be several episodes of just talking to people. The only people we have left to talk to in the inn, I believe, are going to be Sela and Irabeth. Then probably go get Woljif, and probably fucking talk to him as well. So that is going to be the end of this video. If you're watching on Twitch, stick around. We're going to keep playing. If you're watching on YouTube, hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.